I was sitting on the edge of our bed, staring at my phone like it might suddenly explain everything. The message had arrived just after midnight. I need space. 2 simple words, innocent in appearance, catastrophic in impact. My thumb hovered over the screen, unsure if I should respond or throw the phone across the room. I chose silence, hoping somehow clarity would come with morning. But clarity never comes when you're standing at the edge of betrayal. The weeks before had been ordinary, maybe even dull. Routine dinners, the faint glow of the TV while she scrolled on her phone beside me. I had noticed a subtle distance, the way her laugh felt rehearsed, the way she sometimes lingered on her phone a fraction too long. I told myself it was nothing, work stress, her parents visiting, life. But now the message was a declaration, a line drawn between us. I remember the exact texture of my emotions that night. Confusion, anger, fear, and an unbearable ache that settled in my chest like lead. I whispered her name into the darkness, as if calling out would make her appear. But the room stayed empty except for the soft hum of the air conditioner and my own ragged breathing. By the second week, I began to notice something that shattered whatever naive trust one had left. Her social media posts started to change. At first, small things, a quote about emotional distance, a cryptic meme about cold husbands. Then a picture of a candlelit dinner captioned, "Finally, someone who listens without judgment." I froze when I realized that someone probably wasn't me. I confronted her when she returned home one evening. "Sarah, we need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She looked at me like I was an unexpected obstacle in her path. There was a polite smile, but her eyes, my God, her eyes were distant, almost rehearsed. "I think we should take a little more space," she said softly, almost rehearsed, as if she had said this in front of a mirror 100 times. "Space?" I asked, my voice rising despite my attempt at calm. "You mean from me? Or?" My words trailed off, but the implication hung thick in the air. She didn't answer. She never did. I tried to understand, tried to reason. Was I too cold? Too distracted with work? Did I fail to notice her needs? Every memory of our marriage was suddenly tainted with doubt. I replayed conversations, moments, gestures. Could 1,000 small failures add up to this? I couldn't sleep. I would lie awake listening to the creak of the floorboards, imagining her there, laughing in someone else's arms. The thought made me physically ill, but I couldn't stop myself from imagining it. My nights were haunted by a phantom betrayal I hadn't yet confirmed. And then one Thursday evening I stumbled across the proof. Her phone left unlocked on the kitchen counter. I told myself I wouldn't look. I told myself it was wrong. But my trembling fingers betrayed me. There it was. A series of texts that made my stomach twist into knots. She was meeting him, some coworker, someone I barely knew existed, at a cafe downtown. The tone was casual, intimate, familiar in ways that had once belonged to me. I don't even remember closing the door behind her that night. I remember sitting on the couch, holding my head in my hands, and weeping like a man who had spent years building a life only to have it dissolve in front of him. The confrontation was inevitable. "I know, Sarah," I said quietly, my voice barely audible over the pounding of my heart. "I know about him." She froze, the color draining from her face. For the first time in weeks, she didn't have a rehearsed response. I didn't mean for it to happen like this," she whispered, almost pleading. It started as something small, and I didn't know how to stop it." "Small?" My voice cracked, rising in disbelief. "You're telling me this was small? The way you've been posting online, the way you've been avoiding me. How is this small?" Her eyes glistened with tears, but they were tears I could no longer trust. "I feel trapped, Mark," she said, finally voicing the unspoken tension that had been building between us. "I feel like you're emotionally unavailable. And he listens. He cares." I swallowed hard, the words cutting deeper than any physical blow. I had tried, God, I had tried, to be present, to communicate, to be the husband she needed. But I wasn't perfect. I had been tired. distracted, maybe cold in ways I hadn't even realized. "Do you love him?" I asked, my voice low, almost breaking. Her silence answered louder than any confession. The days that followed were a haze of heartbreak, self-recrimination, and endless questions. I replayed every detail, trying to pinpoint where it went wrong, trying to understand why love, which had once been so effortless between us, now felt like a distant memory. I began to notice the little betrayals I had ignored. Her laughter at his texts, the way she would linger on her phone, the excuses she made for spending time away. Every memory of her warmth now felt like a lie, a veneer that had hidden her true feelings all along. But in the midst of my despair, there was also clarity. I could no longer live in denial, no longer pretend that the life I had built with her was intact. I needed to reclaim myself from the shadow of her betrayal, to rebuild my sense of self outside of a marriage that had been fractured. The final confrontation came one Sunday morning. I had been silent for days, letting her believe she had the upper hand, letting her comfort herself with the illusion that she could continue her life without consequence. "I can't do this anymore," I said, voice steady despite the storm inside me. "I can't stay in a marriage where trust has been broken like this. You've chosen someone else. I deserve honesty. I deserve respect. And I deserve to find happiness somewhere I'm not questioning every moment of my life." She opened her mouth, probably to argue, to plead, to justify. But I didn't wait for her. I packed my things, each item a small act of reclaiming my life, and walked out the door. Walking away was both liberating and excruciating. Each step was weighted with loss, but also with a faint glimmer of hope that I could survive this, that I could heal. The betrayal would leave scars, yes, but it would not define me. I returned later to retrieve the things I had left behind. Photographs, mementos, reminders of a love that had once been real. I looked at them one by one, letting myself remember the good alongside the pain. And then, finally, I let them go. Months later, I still check my phone less obsessively. I still feel the ache of absence when I see her face in a memory or a passing street. But I have learned something crucial. Love, trust, and loyalty are not just gifts we give to each other. They are also shields we must protect. When those shields are broken, we must have the courage to step away, even when every fiber of our being wants to hold on. I don't hate her. Not entirely. But I mourn what could have been, what we could have been. And I remind myself that betrayal, while devastating, can also be a catalyst. A painful, unforgiving teacher showing us where our boundaries lie and how fiercely we must guard our hearts. Some nights, I still lie awake, imagining what life might have been if she had chosen differently. But I also imagine a life rebuilt, stronger and wiser, where I am no longer defined by her absence but by my own resilience. And slowly, I start to feel something I hadn't felt in weeks. A fragile, tentative hope that love, honest, unwavering love, might one day find me again. The message that started it all, "I need space," still haunts me. But now, it also reminds me that space can be a beginning, not just an ending. A beginning of self-discovery, of healing, and, eventually, of a life where betrayal is not the final word.